better this week.
I'm so glad.
I was a little lethargic last week. I apologize.
It was still good.
Are we ready to do it?
Yes.
Okay, let's pray. Somebody else want to pray this time?
Sure.
Okay.
Our Father, it's with grateful hearts that we gather today to honor you with the language that you use to give us your word. And we would just ask that you would be here with us, that as we apply ourselves to the teaching that Lee is giving us, that he would be inspired to say those things that would inspire in us an understanding and a greater appreciation for your word and the ability and the want to follow the directions that you give us there. And we just ask this in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen. Very good. Okay. So before we go, does anybody have questions on the vocabulary from last week?
I already asked Katie.
For five,
She
you
helped
mean?
me.
For five or for four? For five.
For five. When
For
did,
assignment.
yes, for five.
Okay. Um,
I was having trouble with the enunciation of family, and Kitty helped me.
Mishpacha?
Mishpacha.
Yep.
Maha. It's
Pacha.
supposed to be a, right?
Right. I think what will help with the pronunciation is just take it in bites, like small bites. You remember how we learned to split up the syllables?
Right.
And you can just, if you wanted to, just draw a light pencil line in your book between the syllables at first, if it helps you
Okay.
do it, because you can have a big old word, and if you can break it down into syllables, it's not so bad.
I noticed on the app, I finally downloaded the app, that they do a lot of emphasis on the last syllables. Is that what we're supposed to be doing, or is
Well,
it just
the emphasis normally is, the accent will be normally on the last syllable,
Okay.
Unless
But-
otherwise.
yeah. unless otherwise stated. But they, they overdo it a little bit in the thing, because
They're teaching.
they're teaching how to do it. Same way like we teach little kids, when we kind
Right.
of overdo it a little bit with that, but that's okay.
One last other thing.
Okay.
On son,
Yeah.
from the previous week's words, that's Bane, right?
Bane. Yeah, you normally hear Ben, but yeah.
I've heard, that's what I heard last night. I heard Adam say Ben, so,
Ben Hur.
Yeah, that
and I was wondering,
that's like that.
uh-huh,
Okay, so we'll say a most of the time, but a lot of times in normal speech, this as you advance on, this is correct as a, but a lot of times it just kind of gets shortened to eh.
okay.
It just does. It's
Like
okay.
in speaking it.
Yeah, like when you're reading the Bible correctly, it's a, but as you're going, it'll get slurred to eh.
Everybody knows it is.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, everybody knows that it's correctly A, but it's also gonna be sounding like M a lot of times. when
Like-
we do it in English,
Right,
right?
it's Ben.
Right.
Everybody,
Like we don't always say like I'm going to go.
yeah.
Or say, I'm gonna go.
Right. Okay, that helps, thank you.
Yep. So either way's fine as long as you know that the Sarah is A. You know that. So when you say Ben, Bane,
As long as you know what it means.
yeah.
Reading the Bible, right?
Yep. There's other words like that too, you'll notice as we go on. Okay, so we're going to talk about masculine and feminine words. We talked about it a little bit last week, right?
It's a little bit.
We got to the feminine singular nouns that we didn't know.
What page?
Page 32.
Say
Okay.
cattle or animal real quick.
Bahama?
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 Okay.
Bahama? Here, I'll go through and say the words.
Okay.
Av, and y'all say them after me. El, Isha,
Isha,
Bahama,
Bahama,
no, Bahama,
Bahama,
Bat,
Bas,
He,
He,
Halach,
Halach,
Yerushalayim,
Yerushalayim,
Min,
Min,
Mitzrayim,
Mitzrayim,
Mishpacha,
Mishpacha,
Na'ara,
Nahara,
Ruth,
Rut,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Yep. Okay, so we have masculine words and feminine words. So everything in Hebrew must agree, like person, number, and gender. So a little different than English. So if you have something that's first person means like I or me. That's first person. As second person, okay, so first person singular is like I, me. So first person is just one of me. So first person plural will be what? Like we, right? Okay. Second person is you. When I say you. Second person singular, that's the number part, is you. Like second person plural, I would say y'all, right? So second person. Now third person is like him or her. Does that make sense? First, second, third. So you have first person, I, we, second person, you, second person plural, y'all. Third person, he, she, them, they. And you see that could be masculine and feminine as well, like he, she. That makes sense to everybody?
So would that be third person plural would be them and
Yeah. Third person singular is like him or her.
they? Okay.
And then it's either masculine or feminine. Now, when I first started in my first year Hebrew course, I didn't even know that much about English grammar, so some of the terminology I had to go look up. So I just wanted to stop for a second. That way we're all understanding. I don't want that to be a stumbling block
So-
as we go on.
Person, number, and what has to agree? What's-
The person, the number, and the gender,
Okay, all right, that's, I missed
So-
that part.
right?
Got it.
Okay, so we have the male and female thing with Hebrew, like most languages. So we have a noun, it's like a person, place, or thing, right? And we have a verb, it's like an action word, like a doing. So the verb and the noun have to agree with one another as far as gender and as far as the person and number. Okay, so if it's a male or female doing something, if it's how many of those male or females are doing it, they have to agree with one another. So that'll help you. It really helps when you're reading the Bible too, to be specific about who's doing what and those kind of things. So the masculine words, as we said, don't have to do anything really with being manly or womanly. It has more to do with the spelling. So just about all the nouns that end in the regular consonants are going to, most of the time, there's some exceptions, they'll be masculine. So they'll take masculine verbs and things like that, masculine pronoun. So the words that are going to be feminine, they're going to end, they'll have a consonant, and then it'll have like that, and then it would end with a hey. So
Oh,
like
so
it'll be
that-
kamates hey. Or if it ends with a tav, Don likes me to put that little thing, I'll put that for you, Don. So many times this will be assigned for you when you see kamates hey or a word ending with a tav, that's going to be a female word. So it'll take a female verb.
It's also used as a plural. Is that?
It is, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
It's a little
So
bit-
there'll be a difference.
A little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
it goes with it.
So
but-
commas doesn't have to appear with the tav for it to be feminine. Is that
No,
what you're saying?
yeah. If it just for spelling purposes, if you most of the time you don't see that. If you see a word end with the hey,
Okay.
it's probably going to be feminine.
Okay. You
But
will not be-
you'll see this combination most of the time,
Okay.
and if a word ends with the tav, most of the time it's going to be feminine. So there's some exceptions, but they're just oddities. They're just weird. Just happen sometimes, and you'll just have to notice it. So they give us the example here of devar, which is a masculine word. I'm in the middle of page 32 of those bold words. Devar, it ends with the resh, so it's going to take the masculine rules. Now mishpacha is, look, it ends with this ending right here, right? So it's going to take feminine rules. And it tells us here again what I just said. There's nothing male or female about a word or a family, so every Hebrew noun is either masculine or feminine. You must remember which gender it is. And it's not hard to tell. So if it ends in one of these two, it's probably feminine. If it ends in any of the others, it's probably masculine. Okay? So this is not too much new stuff to learn, just that and that. And there's a few oddities which we'll look at some of those. So if you look right there, well, here's a great example from our vocabulary. Look where it says young woman, na'ara. Okay, who knows what a young man is? Was one of the-
Nahara, or
Na'ar.
Na'ar.
Yep, na'ar.
Na'ar.
But look at what a woman is. A young woman is na'ara.
Na'ara.
See the ending on it there?
Yeah.
Does everybody see it?
I do.
Did you see it, Don?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see right there. So it's going to change the way it's pronounced. Now you have mishpacha. So next to it there, it has that same ending. You have the word underneath it, emit. See it? So it ends with the tav, so it's going to take the female rules.
Truth? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's truth.
You have bots, obviously that's a daughter, so that makes sense, but it also ends with the tav. So, Yerushalayim, Mitzrayim. So, I think we already talked about that before.
But Jerusalem and Mitzrayim they're both feminine, but they don't have the tav or the hay.
Yeah, like I said,
That's
I
the
think we
exception.
talked about last time is cities and countries almost always are going to be feminine. They're just going to take feminine rules. I don't know why. I guess like the way you call a boat a she or a country a she.
Like your motherland.
Yeah, I can think of some times that it doesn't, like in Habakkuk, where they're talking about the Chaldeans or Chaldeans. And sometimes it'll, if I'm remembering correctly, go the other way. So let's look at the top of page 33. There are no characteristic endings for the masculine singular noun. We said that. So if a singular noun does not have the ending with the kametz and the hay or the tav, it probably is a masculine singular. Easy enough, right? And all our vocabulary that we learned last week, those were all masculine singular, right? Not the ones for this week, but the ones from chapter 4. So, however, there are some exceptions. There's always exceptions, right? But remember the rule, not the exception. If you're going to have to only remember one. The only certain way to determine the gender of a noun is to look it up in the Hebrew dictionary. That's just the way it is. So, there's some that you can get, like nice lexicons. If you want to get one for the house in a book form, I would probably just get, it's called BDB, Brown Diver Briggs. It's only like $30. It's kind of hard to use, but get used to it. The best one to get is Hello, but it's like, for like the big set, I think it's like $600. So I want to get that one, but the wait. You can get it on the computer cheaper, but I want the book set.
Yeah.
But BDB's pretty good. It's old, but it's a standard, and it's in one volume, and it's about $30. You can get it on Amazon.
It's Brown Diver.
Brown Diver Briggs, but if you just look up BDB Hebrew Lexicon, it'll boom pop right up. It's a standard classic. So, in Hebrew, every verb has both masculine and female forms, and we talked about that. Subject and verb must agree in person, number, and gender. And that'll be invaluable to you when you're reading the Bible in Hebrew. Because it really, now sometimes there's some ambiguity. You're like, who said this? You know? And it can, but most time if there's questions like that, it's because God wants you to dig a little deeper and think about it. So in the last chapter, all the verbs were used in the masculine singular form. Okay, we said. And they all had the same pattern of vowels. I want you guys to start looking for the vowel patterns, just how we saw the K'mei Te, right? So that's a pattern, and the Tav's a pattern. So for masculine singular in the perfect tense, okay, perfect as far as we're going to imagine it for now, it means past tense. Perfect just means like completed. Hebrew is more about aspect than time, but that will be confusing right now. So we'll think of perfect tense is past. So masculine, which ends with one of the consonants that's not a tav or a hey, and it's singular, right? So just one person, one man person did something in the past. Okay, these are verbs, so action words. You're gonna see this pattern right here. So we have like 3 consonants. This is going to be the normal way. Okay, this will be the standard here that you're gonna look for. This will be like the base form. The base form. Or you'll see a lot of grammars call it the call form. Or pa-al. When we start to learn the derived stems, they have different stems of pa-al, because you hear the sound pa-al. This is the base form, the normal, most simplest way. 3 consonants with Like, we look at the examples here from words you guys already know. Shema, Zachar, Halach, Shamar, Amad, Malach. You guys see the That's the base form, and that'll be what we kind of base everything off of. You got a question?
No, I was just gonna interject it because it's a root word. All root words are 3 letters, right?
All roots are 3 letters.
And so, if it's 3 letters, or it begins with that, is that,
Okay,
if
let's
you
talk
have a
about
4th
that.
letter on that, is it going to, and you see that starting, is that gonna change on the base? I mean, if it's a hey or a tav?
Well, we'll make it feminine. Let's talk about the roots for a second. I think that might be in the next chapter, but let's talk about it a little bit, that way I'll be ahead. Okay.
I think it's the next page.
Oh, is
Roots
it? Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
there it is.
let's just wait a minute. We'll get to that in just a
That's
second.
why I was thinking roots, remember?
Hold
I
that
told you I
thought.
watched that.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Hold that thought for a minute, though.
Okay.
So, masculine singular. This will be the standard that we're going to base everything off of.
Okay.
Is pa-al. We call it the pa-al stem. Or call. It means like the base. Okay? So this will be the normal way. Past tense, masculine, singular, and most of the roots are 3-letter roots. If they're not, something else going on with it. So, for a feminine one, and you guys will learn to spot these patterns. You'll learn them good when you'll see the vowels and you'll spot it, boom. And you'll look at the prefixes and the suffixes and the different vowel patterns on there, and your eyes will go boom right to the root, right to 3 letters. When we get to the root, because you're learning. That's why I want you guys to learn these patterns when you spot the patterns, because you look at this big word and you're like, what the heck's going on? You won't, because your eyes are going to say, look at these things as patterns. You're like, boom, that's a pattern. And as soon as you see a certain patterns can pop in your mind, first person, masculine, singular, past tense. Right? It's gonna pop into your mind like that. Or you're gonna be like, boom, that's a pattern for female. That's a pattern for plural. That's a prefix with whatever it is. And your eyes are gonna go straight to the root. So don't get discouraged here. So to make a feminine singular form of these same verbs, a hey is added to the 3 letters. Okay? So you have the 3 letters there, and to make it feminine, to add the hey.
But this is, the base here is different than the base up there. Is,
What do you mean?
okay, like for feminine,
It's yeah,
The vowels are different?
yeah.
the vowels.
That's what I
are
was about to explain to you.
different. Oh, I'm sorry.
If you let me tell you, I'll tell you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let me start over. So you have the base form, right? Which is the 3 letters. We're gonna get to the root thing. You guys said it was on the next page. So to make it feminine, we're gonna add the hey, and you're gonna get a different vowel pattern.
Oh,
Okay? So we had the masculine singular like this. Right? That's masculine singular. We're going to turn it, as long as there's nothing weird going on, we're gonna turn it to a feminine word. You're gonna notice it's gonna have a hey and this vowel pattern right here.
Okay?
Mhm.
So when you look at a word, that's why I like the X's. Like they give us the example with the X's. Because when you look at a word, you're gonna notice this.
In your mind, you're gonna make a separation between this. It almost be nice. That probably should use 2 different colors. Right? You're gonna see this only. You're gonna go boom. That's a feminine verb. And you're like, what is the action that it's talking about? And you're gonna go boom. That root right there. See what I'm saying?
So she walked.
She walked, she remembered, she heard.
Okay.
Okay? Now there's gonna be a difference in pronunciation because of the vowel changes. Okay, but your I, just I was telling you, this will be a basic way to start. See, like you guys recognize the 3-letter words with the singular masculine perfect tense. Look down at the feminine one right there. It gives you the same words. So we have Shema. Look, you see it? That one kind of sounds the same. So it's easy to see, but you see the root right there? You see how you can recognize the root easily? Now, that one sounds similar even though the syllables are a little bit different, but the next one is a little bit different. Zahra. Zahra. You see? Now, the masculine one is Zachar. Zachar. The feminine one is Zahra. So, Zahra. See there? Because it has that pattern like this. It makes it feminine, even though it sounds different. So to me, it's much easier to read Hebrew. For me, it's easier to read it because I'm picking out those roots, you know, as I'm reading, and then you can break it down. You're like, oh, that's a feminine. That's this. That's that. Halcha. See the next one. Halcha. What's the masculine word form of that? Halach. It sounds different, right? It sounds different, but you see the same root right there. Now you notice that pattern on the end that we had right there for the nouns,
Yeah.
right? Same pattern we had for the nouns,
For the
Right.
feminine.
for the feminine. But look, we have this here for the verbs.
And the kaf is no longer the patak with the hay on it. So that's why it looks different too.
Oh, it's just it's not a final
Right.
one, so
It's
it just
not
looks
final.
different. Yeah. And then the next one, shamra, shamra. See, the masculine one is shamar.
Now that word shamar, that's gonna be like at the end of the 10 weeks, your finals, that you're gonna have to write out
The whole paradigm for the word shamar by memory.
What do you mean, the whole paradigm?
The first person,
All that stuff.
feminine, first
Yeah.
person,
I'm gonna
masculine,
fail.
No, you have to do it.
perfect.
The reason why we're using
Shamar, we're gonna use Shamar for that is because it follows all the rules. It doesn't break any of the rules. You know, it's one that doesn't have any oddities. So you're gonna do all of them. And there's a bunch. There's a bunch of them. So you're gonna do them like, he did this,
How far away are
she
we
did
from
this,
Well, we're in five.
he will, she will, multiple
Taking
women
3
did,
weeks to
will,
get this far.
they did.
Had a couple extra classes in there though, so it made
Yeah, we're doing-
it long.
Yeah, we're doing basically 2 weeks for each chapter instead of 1 week for each chapter because I want to make sure.
I'm
getting it.
grateful for that.
Yeah, we're doing it about half pace. Okay, so you see the difference, right?
Yes.
All right, so I want everybody to remember the patterns.
I have to remember the patterns. Have to remember, okay? Man, woman.
Man, woman. Okay. Now turn the page. They give you the examples. They're on top of each other. So we'll do the he stood, she stood. Okay, so hu amad, he amda. Hu amad, he amda. He stood, she stood. Next one. David Shamar. David Shamar. David guarded. Sarah Shamra.
Wow.
You see? Now we'll talk about the roots, okay? The Hebrew language is built on a system of roots. A Hebrew root is a set of letters, usually 3. It's almost always going to be 3, okay? So that's the way that you'll look stuff up. If you get a lexicon like Brown Diver Briggs, or one of those, you'll look up, and I think any Hebrew lexicon or dictionary, you'll look up the root. You'll look up what that root word is.
Okay.
Because there'll be prefixes on stuff, like we learned about the hay getting smushed on. You can't look up hay if you're looking up, Hamelech. Right? You need to look up the mem for melech. Does it make sense? Okay. So, Hebrew language is built on a system of roots. A Hebrew root is a set of letters, usually 3, which expresses a general idea. Vowel patterns and additional letters are added to a root to give specific meaning. Many roots with similar meanings are created. Many words with similar meanings are created from each root. Okay, so you have a root word that's based on
3 consonants. And stuff gets added to that to make it more specific. So it has a general meaning. And we're going to put things onto it to make it more specific. So when you see, when you look up roots in a lexicon, you're going to see it, it's just going to be the 3 letters. And I think most of the time in our book, it gives us like a little periods.
Yes.
Like that in between it. Okay, you really don't, you can't really pronounce the root because there's no vowels. Okay, so the standard pattern that we're going to put on the roots to pronounce them so we know what we're talking about is we're just going to put our standard one. Okay, that's going to be our go-to.
Standard base.
Yeah. Pretend like it's a masculine singular. Just so we can say it, so we know what we're talking about. If I'm like, hey, the root shamar, I'm not talking about the man guarded. I'm talking about, hey, that root that starts with, sheen, mem, resh. That's the one I'm talking about. So when you see it, give it to you a lot of times with the dots in between, or you'll see it in some grammars just with no nakud. But that's going to be our standard. That's the way we'll pronounce it. Okay. It's gonna be like the base form.
So stuff gets put on it. So like they show you the root right there, mem, lamed, kaf, and you can see what we get from that root. You can see what we get from that root right there. We get the words malach, that he ruled, masculine, singular, perfect, right? Or you get melech from that same root, a king. Or you get malchut, kingdom, from that same root. So you can see there how they're all built off of that one root letter, right? And we took that root, a 3-letter root, and we're developing other words that are more specific around it. It's kind of different from English, right? Our language doesn't really work that way. In one way, it's more simple, but it seems more complicated because it's just not the way our language works. So, look at the next one. Shamar. Okay, so we get the most basic way we can say it, and the most basic form that we're going to learn everything in is Shamar. He guarded. Now we got here, that was kind of mean. They gave us like it almost looks like a participle form. They shouldn't have put that in there. But it says shomer, like a guard. That's a person who does like guarding, right? Mishmar, a prisoner.
Or prison or prisoner?
A prison. Mishmar. So you see how like those are all made from that same root, okay? The sweet Hebrew works. Now you'll notice people that they may have played around, but they maybe not have taken a course or studied a serious grammar book, or they'll misuse these roots all the time. We hear it all the time. They're like, well, it's strong number, 5, whatever, and that root means guard. Okay, well, how is it? How is it really appear in the Bible? Does it say nishmar? Because that may mean prison, right? But you'll hear them say, no, I looked it up in the lexicon, it means guard. What does it mean in the text? You'll see people do that all the time. So it's stuff they probably shouldn't. It's very, very common. And, you know, when you start to learn the biblical languages, it will ruin a lot of sermons for you. You'll just be like, okay. And now the people mean well. They really do mean well. And you should work in, I'm not against like Strong's numbers, but that's not what they're made for. So I'm not against them at all, but like everybody should work in the level that they're able to work. But the more you learn about it, it's more clear, right? So if you use tools like Strong's numbers for the purpose that they were created for, it's a lot better than for using it for our own reasons. But you can see right there how there can be a distortion when you just go to the base form of a word, or what that root means and what it actually means in the form that it appears in the Bible. So we have to be careful. I'm guilty of it when I first started. I didn't say that. I didn't know any better, right? So we have to look up how the word is used.
So, in a guard,
Mm-hmm.
the vav is placed in between the.
You're right. That's why I wish they didn't put that one in there. So it's like
Okay.
that's almost like a different thing.
I'm going to, how do you determine the root if you look, so they're not always, the root's not
Yeah.
always.
I wish they didn't put that one in there, and
Okay.
I wish they didn't put the other one in there.
Something was
underneath
bugging
there.
me.
That one's more like a participle, like, but that's
See,
like,
there's a word that,
yeah, that's like,
you're gonna have to teach me English.
that's a
now.
few chapters in the other direction. I wish they didn't put that one in there.
Okay, I'll
So
do
don't
it.
worry about that vav too
I'll
much in
do
there,
it.
but we'll learn it, I promise, okay? Unless the Lord
Alright.
comes before we get there.
Usually the three, the root will be together, usually the
Usually,
root together.
for now, the root will be together.
Okay,
That vav's gonna get slipped in there for another reason later.
okay. I can live with that.
Yep. And you have Ahmad, which is he stood. Amud, a pillar. Omeid, standing place. They gave you some really hard ones here. I think the reason why they gave them to you is just so you don't take the root and try to make it
Yeah.
like, no, it means this every time it appears. Like, oh really, what form does it appear in?
Try to show that the variation.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation. Let's just put it that way. So you can make one root that has that base kind of meaning can form a lot of different words. Let's move on.
Yeah, I wanna hear the next one.
Are we gonna do this? Zachar, Zacher, Zacharon, not
I
Chacaron.
know.
Zacharon. Okay, it's a memorial. You'll find that a lot in the Bible. Okay, but they all come from that root zachar, to remember. And he remembered, a remembrance, and a memorial. Okay, like I said, this would be a memorial point. So here we go. Verbal roots. The next one. There is an especially important relationship between Hebrew roots and Hebrew verbs. Obviously, right? So each verb in Hebrew has a root, generally composed of 3 letters. In chapters 4 and 5, we introduce the following verbs. And you guys know those verbs pretty well, I think, by now. So we won't read them all. It says the 3 consonants in each of these verbs are the root letters for that verb. So they give us the real nice, easy forms there.
Yeah, all masculine.
From now on, each new verb will be introduced in its root form, with the dots between the consonants and the vowels. Okay?
Back to
Yep. So we got ahead a little bit. Like we already learned that there. So they're just gonna give us the root form on the verbs from now on, and then we're gonna learn how to conjugate them.
I looked at the vowel patterns when I said masculine form, before I looked and saw that it said he.
Oh,
So I did recognize the
you
pattern.
knew it. Yeah. So right there at the top of page 35, there's a nice little mini chart for you to be able to refer to. So you can look back on that. That'll help you.
Mhm.
And just you can see the pattern. It's just the same pattern. Like I said, it's like almost like your eyes will go. It would be cool if it was in different colors, right? But I want you to imagine it in different colors, or however it is that you have to imagine it. When I look at it, I see when I look at a Hebrew word, I see 2-3 different things at the same time. I look for the patterns. I'm like, boom, I see a female pattern right there, and then I can pick out the root real quick. Now, let's learn about the vav. Okay, that word "and" in Hebrew.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's how I learned
It's a vav, so we're gonna see it can be a little different sometimes. Most of the time it's vet. Yeah, you're right. So that's the normal way that we're gonna see it, but it can be different. It's like all these weird rules in Hebrew, right? So it says the word "and" is not a separate word in Hebrew. Instead, the letter vav is attached to the beginning of the word. Okay, just like the "hey" that we learned, it's not a separate word. It just gets attached to that word. And the normal way we'll see it is just the. Just like that. So vav with a shabbat. So we have a father, which is av, and if we wanted to say and a father, va'av. Easy, right? You guys probably mostly knew that. Now look, here's where we're getting tricky, and you can see where Hebrew can be hard if you're not recognizing the roots with the one below it. We have Hamelech, the king. Now if we say and the king, now we got two things that got squished onto that word melech, right?
Oh.
And
Okay.
the,
And the king.
okay.
The Hamelech and the king.
Bahamut,
Huh?
is that how you would say it?
The Hamelech. The Hamelech. The Hamelech. Now look, they're not separate words, right? See, they're all squished together there. It's just the way they do it. So that's why there's so much stress on learning the roots. Otherwise, if you weren't familiar with the roots, that would be confusing looking, right? Okay, so the word "and" or the vav, normally it takes a shabbat. That's the normal way that we're gonna see it. So in its most simplest base form, it's just bet. Bet. Real short, just bet. They give us the examples here. David va'Abraham va'Ruth. David va'Abraham va'Ruth. The next one. David amad v'hu halach. David stood and he walked. Hana'ar v'hana'ara. Hana'ar v'hana'ar. Oh my goodness. V'hana'ara. The young man and the young woman. Okay? And it just gets pushed on there. Even if there's a "hey," there's a lot more stuff that gets pushed on there too. So, and, or it could be "and up." Now, of course, there's weird rules here. It says the vav "and" is sometimes written like this: ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, it's just ooh. It's not boo.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Not
But it
boo.
still means and?
It still means "and."
It's like the vowel.
Like I said, that's why I said Hebrew's a lot easier to read
Ooh.
than to speak, because you can pick these things out. Right? So if you were just to hear somebody say like ooh, ah, da, 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 you're like, what? I'm not a native speaker, but if you're reading the Bible, you can see in there like I can see the vav, I know it's an "and," I can see the "hey," I know that's the. I can see the root. I know what that root means. I can look at the ending. That makes it feminine. And because I know the Nakud, I know how to pronounce it correctly as well. You know? I may not be able to pull it off the top of my head without seeing it in the Bible, but I can look at the word and understand what it means. If I was just to hear somebody say it, because the vocalization changes so much, that could be pretty hard. I only have 5 minutes? Oh my goodness. That went by fast.
Yeah,
Okay, we got to learn some more stuff though.
okay.
Okay, so the Vav may also appear in all these other forms here, look. Okay, so the key thing is to have the Vav there. You'll know that it's an and. Okay, but look, it could be V, could be Va, could be Vet, could be Ve, or Va. These variations do not change the meaning of the Vav and. Okay? Even though they're pronounced different, it's still going to be and. When
So
you
if
see-
there's a Vav at the beginning of a noun, it's and.
It's and. Yep. And you pronounce it like it says. So the ones there, those are easy for you guys. V, va, ve, ve, va. Just remember the Vav with the kibbutz. It's just ooh, ooh. Now you guys see that little bitty 9 right there after that bold word
Yeah.
and?
Yeah.
Does everybody see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's called a superscript number. So if you look in the back of your book, if you want more information on it, it'll give you
Chapter.
the notes for it. Yep. Whenever you guys see those as you go, this is a real good textbook. And they give us what we call the Bamaf letters. So it says in the above examples, notice that the pronunciation of the words contains the Begit Kafet letters. The Begit Kafet letters. Now we got the Pei, the Kaf, and the Bet may change. The change in pronunciation does not affect the meaning of the word. Okay? Easy enough. Change in pronunciation does not affect the meaning of the word. Whenever you see those little superscript numbers, if you want to learn more about it, you can go in the back and look. Now, next page, Hebrew prepositions. Okay, the word mean, from, we already learned that, right? Mean. It can appear fully spelled as mean, and it can also be attached to the word. Okay? Just like the Vav and the Hey can be attached to the word, that mean, that noon can drop off at the end of there, and just the mem with a hirig or a tzerig gets stuck onto that noun. Okay? So stuff in Hebrew is like a car crash. I heard one guy explain it. So you have the root, right? And then you have the car crash. It goes, a bunch of stuff goes boom! It's smashed onto the beginning and the end. And you got to be like the investigator and find out where's the root and what all these prepositions and suffixes and stuff mean. So you can see a lot of stuff can get smushed onto the word, right? And you see how all the letters on the word can change really quick. So look at the examples here. From a house. From a house. Mi bait. Now from the house. Min habait. You guys see it there? It's at the top of page 36.
I'm looking, but it's not connecting. Okay, from a house, it just has the mean.
Right. So you can write it out, mean bites if you wanted to, from a house. But many times it's just gonna appear as me bites. You can write it out fully if you want to.
But we want to learn how it's going to appear in the Bible, right?
Right.
So mean, it means from. From. So if you could write it out if you want to, from. From a house. Mean bite. But you're going to see it in the Bible many times. They won't write out that word mean. It's just going to be get smushed onto this word. And it's going to be me bite.
Okay, so it gets smushed on there. Or you may see it the way it has it right next to min habait, from the house. Do you see how it has the hay there? Now look at the one below it on the right side. From a man. Meish. Meish.
Maybe.
Meish. They're giving us a zere with it this time. It's probably because that aleph is a guttural. So, from a man. Now look how they're going to give us from a man. Min ha'ish. Now look, they're going to give it even more squished together on that last one, okay? They kind of primed you for it so you don't get shocked. Mehamelech. Mehamelech. From the king. Do you see it? From the king. Mehamelech. See all that all got squished into one word? It's they're not lazy. That's just the way the language works. So that's why, like, it may take, when you translate, it may take 3 or 4 English words, maybe more, to make one Hebrew word. Mehamelech. Or you could write it the other way. Look, min hamelech. You could see either one of those forms in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, the masculine pronoun hu, which means he, is also used for it. Okay, like a he, it, or she, it depends if the word is masculine or feminine.
Right.
Like say, it did this, but in Hebrew it would sound like he did this or she did this. Where they're talking about, like a behemoth is a feminine, right? Animal. So they would use the he. So hu is the Hebrew word for he or it, and the female pronoun he means she is used for it when referring to feminine. That's easy enough. It says the house stood and it guarded a family. Habait amad vahu shamar mishpacha. Okay, so the reason why it's important because you can see which word goes with what. See? Look at the next one. The family remembered and it went down to Jerusalem. Hamishpacha zachra vahu halcha el Yerushalayim. The family's feminine, right? So she, zachra, that she remembered, and she, instead of it, and she, halcha, instead of halach, it's halcha, because mishpacha, or family, is feminine. And then where did she go? To Jerusalem. Okay. Yep. So, I want you guys to do our homework. Exercise number 5 on page 37. And do exercise number 8 on page 38.
Should we look ahead at, if we can, at the next week's vocabulary?
We're going to look at it right now.
Oh, okay.
That way, I want you guys to do those 2 exercises, and then learn next week's vocabulary. Okay?
Where is that?
Page 40.
We're going to go over pronunciation real quick on page 40. Yep, so homework, learn vocabulary on page 40. Do the exercises number 5 on page 37. Exercise number 8 on page 38. And of course the vocabulary on page 40. Okay. Is everybody ready to look at the vocabulary real quick? Okay. I'll give you 1 second. I want you to look at it with your eyeballs while we go through it. One thing, don't fall behind on the vocabulary. Okay, here we go. Ach,
Ah,
ach, brother. Eretz, Eretz. You'll say it. Eretz. What you missing, Mom?
You're on Brothers still?
No,
Where are you?
Land second.
I'm going down.
Oh, down, I was so
Sorry.
crossing.
That's okay. I want to make sure everyone's following along the same.
Okay.
Did you see it? Eretz. Did you see it?
Mhm.
Okay. The one below that. Derech. Derech. Okay. The one below that. They're giving us two of them there. It's Haim or it's Hema. Haim or Hema. The one below that, Hena. The one below that, Har. The one below that, Yom. You guys probably already know some of these.
You want to keep order?
Yep,
Never seen it written though.
there it is.
I know.
Okay, the top of the left column, and we'll go down through it. Moab.
There's a Moab, Utah.
It's like it's Moab in the Bible, but it's Moab, so that one's easy to remember. Evid. Evid. It's a slave or a servant. Now look, we got a root right there, right? So we're gonna put that pattern on it, that and we'll say avar. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to pronounce it. So we're gonna put that pattern on there, avar. The next one below it is Ir. Ir. It's like city. Okay. One below that is Am. It's like a nation or a people group. You want to give it a shot? Go ahead, babe.
Shalach.
You got it. That put that all pattern. Shalach. And the last one, Sham. Yep. And we will start chapter 6 next week. That went by fast.
What is today, the 22nd?
That went by fast.
It did.
Man, we're the